And welcome to JFPSports, where fantasy and sports talk lives. Well, today is a big day because it's 2 days before kickoff. I, Puma, and Ricky P, my partner in crime, D Nanas, a brother from another mother, is behind the glass as usual, and we are here to kick off this special weekend. Rick, what do you think? It's kickoff week. I'm so psyched.
We're finally here. We've gone through 4 weeks before of just talking preseason. We're finally getting the dustbusters out of there. They're back to their regular 9-to-5 jobs. The guys who are supposed to play are ready to go, other than Le'Veon Bell. But let's do it. Let's kick it off. Week 1, right around the corner.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think week 4 preseason needs any talking about. I mean, unless it just involves a lot of people getting cut. I mean, think about Dan Bailey, the prime kicker from USC for Dallas for so many years, second in history of kicking, is gone from Dallas.
Yeah, no, the biggest talking points of week 4 wasn't what was on the field, it was off the field. We could talk about Dan Bailey, which is a major deal to Cowboys. Teddy Bridgewater left. He's a Saint now. Khalil Mack, his situation got resolved, which we'll get into. But, yeah, it was more about what happened off the field.
Yeah, and to piggyback on that, Jared McKinnon tears his ACL. All you fantasy owners out there, I pray for you. Moment of silence. But yes, we have to get back into the news. And the Giants cut Davis Webb, like we touched, and he's going to the New York Jets, practice squad. I feel like it's Hackenberg the second.
Right. I mean, it kind of is shocking to me that he was the Giants' backup for a few years, and the best he can do is practice squad. And that's one of the things, being a Giants' backup isn't great because Eli's always playing. You never get a chance to play. Right. But he landed on his feet.
And absolutely. And for you Giants fans out there, I believe when McAdoo made the switch to Geno Smith, if it was the switch to Davis Webb, the public outcry wouldn't be as bad. But because the New York Giants fans knew what Geno Smith had, which was nothing. I don't even know how this guy got a job with the Chargers. Just because it wasn't Webb to see the future, it just showed that there is no future, and it's here and now with Eli, Saquon Barkley, OBJ, and they're here for the winnings. They're here for now.
Right, exactly. And we expect a lot out of the Giants this season. We've talked about it before, but they need to get their act together after last year.
And do you think the Teddy Bridgewater, I hear a lot of Jet outcry. They said they should have kept them behind Sam Darnold as week 1. I believe, you gave Teddy $1 million this offseason. You acquired him. Now you got a 3rd-round pick. I didn't like them shipping back the 6th-round pick. I didn't get that too much, the Jets. But a 3rd-round pick for a guy you got for $1 million, it's a steal.
Realistically, if we want to just break down the trade, they paid $1 million for a 3rd-round pick. When we really want to break it down, which I think a lot of teams would do at any point. I mean, you can turn that 3rd-round pick into a future superstar. Yeah, I mean, we don't really know. We've seen guys, Tom Brady, for example, everyone wants to go back to that. He was a late-round draft pick, and he's been around forever. So you don't know what you're going to get, but you understand that Teddy wasn't the future. And I was on board saying not to start Darnold, not to start Teddy, in fact, start Josh McCown. That doesn't seem the way that it's not going to be that way week 1, I should say. But I think that they did it at the right time because if you just let him sit there, other teams understand that, look, as the trade deadline starts to hit, you have to assume someone's going to get hurt, and you have to assume that team has a chance to compete for the playoff. If they're a team like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and they're not going to compete, all of a sudden, right, why would they go after a guy like Teddy Bridgewater?
When I could get him for free the following season.
Right, exactly. If he let's put it this way, if he sat in a Jets uniform and didn't get traded, he'd be under market value come free agency.
And I see where the Jets' point of view are, the fans are. I mean, listen, my dad at home, he wished that they would have kept Teddy. A lot of older fans
to play?
No, to keep behind as an insurance policy just in case.
And keep him throughout the season.
Right, and I see that's a side of caution. You know what I mean? As Jets fans, we're so used to the heartbreak. We're so used to stuff not working out for us that once we trade somebody that we think is good, it's a total failure. I believe not. We're building around this kid, Sam Darnold, and we're in it to win it. We're in it for the future. Stack those picks, and I thought those picks were a prelude to maybe shipping them off for a Khalil Mack.
Right, and that was I was actually listening to First Take late last week, and that was one of the points that Stephen A. Smith brought up. He said, look, you have an extra third-round pick. Word out of Pittsburgh might be Le'Veon Bell might be on his way out. That's a potential. There it doesn't look like he's going to re-sign there long term. Maybe they trade him, or maybe Le'Veon Bell. He hasn't reported yet. It's late Tuesday night here. He's not coming today. I don't think he's going to be there week 1.
I think James Conner week 1, lock and load.
Right,
and they think it's Cleveland Browns. So what's the urgency?
Right, exactly. Right, and I tend to agree with them. But at some point, Le'Veon Bell, assuming he comes back, he's not going to want to get the touches that he's been receiving in the past because he knows he needs a payday come next season. Even though it's not from the Steelers, he doesn't want to have the DeMarco Murray treatment that the Cowboys gave to DeMarco and not killed him come the offseason. So back to the Jets, I think they got an extra third-round pick, and maybe it's not for Khalil Mack knowing that he went to the Bears, but maybe they use that pick, or maybe that pick gets shipped off for another valuable asset down the road. Absolutely. I think it was a great move.
There's nothing better in life than options and having the most assets.
Right.
And when you have, when you're dealing from strength, as you saw this past offseason going into the draft, the Jets moved up to the 3rd pick to assure their future. You can do things like that, and you could mortgage some of those picks.
Right, exactly. They paid for a $1 million tryout for Teddy. Luckily for them, Teddy played well.
Right, and got him a 3rd-round pick.
Right, I think the Jets on that front have done everything perfectly.
To be proactive.
Right, with Teddy Bridgewater. Now, the Darnold thing I've been back and forth on. We've talked about it, but just regarding Teddy, I think they played him the right amount. I think the Saints did a great job. They still see Breeze there for another year or two, and Teddy can just learn. If Teddy, maybe he's not their backup going forward, but yeah, look, they gave up a 3rd-round pick, and they have a ton of talent down in New Orleans. Maybe Teddy breaks through down there.
Absolutely, and the Saints are a team that's all in it, so they need that insurance. And Jets fans, let me leave you with this: what if Mr. Sam Darnold has a game where he does throw 3 or 4 interceptions? Do we really want to hear the name Teddy in the background? No, we want to live and die by the sword.
Right, and that was my main concern. If Darnold will have one of those games where he throws 3 or 4 interceptions,
but it's a learning,
right? Well, that my initial caution,
right?
On that front, I understand that's going to happen, and everyone. He's a rookie. He's not with the most talented team of all time. I expect that to happen, and that's great if he learns from it. It's just usually if you have Josh McCown and he's serviceable, then you can clamor for Darnold. Now that you're all in on Darnold, I don't expect to see Josh McCown at all unless Darnold gets hurt. But if he goes out there and has 10 interceptions in his first 3 games, well, continue, because where else are you going at this point? So you're not going to Davis Webb. No. So at some point, you just live and die by. I think they went all in on Darnold. And again, you're more of the risk taker, so that's what you believe in. I'm more of the conservative guy. I don't see the Jets doing much this year anyway, but look, being a New York guy, I really hope it works out for them. And
say all the right things.
Right, no, exactly. And if the Jets can get to 6 wins, 7 wins with Darnold leading them through 16 games, I would say it's an overall success.
All right, so moving forward, in recent news, Puma just got his screen fixed. Oh. People have been telling me I am the cheapest person on earth, and look at this.
Wait,
I could read.
I have to say, it looks good. Maybe you'll actually be able to look at your fantasy team, and
I could actually see the faces now.
Right. Before you were, it'll just look like a blank screen over the face.
It looked like someone took a baseball bat and knocked the
it looks good. It only took a while, but look, hey, football season's here. That means there's a new Puma in town, and he's taking things seriously. But before we move on to one last fantasy talk, what do you think of Khalil Mack? I think it's a game changer for the Bears. Unfortunately for me, from where I stand, they get better, but the Bears might still be looking like they're last in that division. Do you agree? Or?
3 points to that. One, you could make that kind of move when you have a rookie quarterback on a rookie contract. That's number 1.
Right.
Number 2, I feel the Bears, they haven't yet shown any progress from last year. They've shown some flashes with Trey Burton in the passing game and the preseason, but I feel like it's a team that's on the ascension. I mean, you go get a Matt Nagy to work with Mitchell Trubisky. Hopefully he becomes a Matt Ryan-ish kind of player. Alex Smith, it's to be seen. And 3, I believe, you need a player like this in that division. Look at the quarterbacks in that division, people. You got Matthew Stafford. You've got discount double check Aaron Rodgers. Kirk Cousins. I mean, they specifically got this man for those guys. Everyone in the AFC West is clapping.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, if I'm Phillip Rivers or I'm, anyone out there,
Case Keenum.
Yeah,
you're like, oh wow.
Yeah, I'm thrilled. But again, at the same time, I don't think this really changes anything right now. I appreciate the Bears doing what they can to go get a game changer, and I think down the road this might be a thing. But the Vikings were very good last year. Discount double check is back, and I hate to say, but Matt Stafford isn't the quarterback who should be last in the division. He's too talented for that, but him and Trubisky will be battling out for last. Right. Unless Aaron Rodgers or something crazy happens, they'll be battling for 3rd and 4th, and I don't think this changes the landscape just because of the overall place that they are. I mean, Trubisky's relatively unproven. He struggled mightily. And they did add some weapons. They added Burton, they added Robinson, Taylor Gabriel, but, I don't know if it changes where they stand.
This, I believe, definitely can impact a team like the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, you got a newly acquired Kirk Cousins, who is turnover pro. You put some rush on him, his average throws that he was getting picked off with 60% of being hurried. So I believe this can impact them, and they're a little light on the line.
Yeah, no, look, the Vikings to me unfortunately can only go down.
Right, that's what I feel.
They can't go up. The Packers certainly can go up with getting Aaron Rodgers back. I think the Lions can go up, and I certainly think the Bears can go up. So if we are thinking of a team that maybe won the division last year out of the NFC that might go down, I agree. It would probably be the Vikings.
For some regression.
Right, which is natural. Being in first place, you face other first-place teams to balance out the schedule throughout the year. So naturally, you're going to face tougher competition. But, Khalil Mack, Aaron Rodgers, Cousins, and Stafford are all going to be worried to have to see that guy 1 out of 8 games or 2 out of 16, however you want to look at it. And I applaud the Bears for trying to get back to that defense with the Brian Urlacher and those hard-nosed Lance Briggs and those guys and Peanut Tillman and trying to finally bring back the glory days in Chicago, because football is a lot better when the Bears and Packers are battling. I believe that, and I think that's what Bears fans should look forward to.
No, absolutely. I think you hit on every point. So moving on to fantasy, all right, potential stud muffins in fantasy for 2018. Jesus, I forgot his name. Ricky P. Give me your choice.
This guy has completely unproven. I have no idea what to expect. Other than, I don't think he's boom or bust because of the volume. The system that, and real quick, the system that he plays in is very pass heavy. They score a lot of points. And that guy, I don't want to hold off, Calvin Ridley. That second wide receiver spot in Atlanta has always been a guy that's been hit or miss in other places. Mohamed Sanu has run that, has been in that role very well, and he was a little undervalued in Cincinnati. We always talk about Julio Jones. We always talk about Devontae Freeman and Matt Ryan and Tevin Coleman. I think Calvin Ridley arguably could be, in a few years, a major number one on a lot of other teams. It's just you're going opposite Julio. And that's nothing to be ashamed of, to be playing behind Julio Jones.
I mean, I would love it. I mean, all the coverage is going to be drawn on him. How many times are you going to see single safety or you're on an island with a corner?
Right, and he reminds me of a guy very similar to Torrey Smith in Baltimore. I think he's a better pass catcher. I think he's a better route runner, but he took the top off defenses. And he let guys like Anquan Bolden run underneath and go those 10-yard routes. Obviously, Julio Jones is much more talented than Anquan ever was. And I think the team that throws the ball a pretty good amount, they gave Matt Ryan a ton of money. They expect him to produce. And I think Calvin Ridley is one of those guys that, look, if you can get him late first late single digit
He's going
rounds.
undrafted someplace.
Right. If you can, to me, if I get to the double digit rounds, that's a number 2 wide receiver in an offense that puts up points. I can find worse positions to be in. What do you think of that, or do you have someone that you think would top that?
Coleman, Hooper, all those guys don't bother you, right? As other options.
No, I think Tevin. Look,
and Sanu.
Well, Calvin Ridley will be ahead of Mohamed Sanu. If he's not, I didn't see the official depth chart, so I'm not sure if he will line up in the slot. His talent completely will outpace.
Vertical threat.
Right. This is. When Dean Addis brought us this question, I try to think outside the box. I don't want to give someone unfortunately Hunter Henry's hurt, but someone that we expect a good amount from. I know I can give you another guy that I can't think off the top of my head right now, but someone that no one's expecting anything out of. And if you can get him at the very end, we talk about this all the time. Some guys were all right, it's your last pick. People want to go home. No one cares. But
that's when I concentrate the
right,
most.
Exactly. I think if you can bolster your bench, not only are you not.
And it's a flyer at the end of the day.
Right, exactly. And you could easily drop him for someone else.
Cutting him anyway.
Right, exactly. And I'm not saying, look, go give a 6th rounder for this guy, but I think he's got enough talent, coming from Alabama. Julio Jones, there's the connection there. I think he could help bring him along as some sort of a younger brother, older brother relationship. And late round flyer. Who's your guy that I should look out for tonight? Because my draft is in less than 2 hours from tonight.
I'm gonna give you a guy. I took him in the last round of my draft. He reminds me of a young Brandon Marshall, and his name is Cortland Sutton. I think
SMU product, right?
SMU, Southern Methodist. I believe he's got the baby Megatron type of body. I believe he could go get it. And God forbid one of those wide receivers go down. I think it's Demaryius Thomas, but one of those, either him or Iman Sanders. Now you're looking at a maybe a slot or even outside position, which I think they would put him in the outside first and put Iman Sanders in that slot.
I agree. I think he's a Z.
Right.
I think he was a Z.
Right. And I believe, he could flourish big time, and especially in standard leagues, a big red zone target.
No, I love that pick. I think if we're comparing our two guys, both wide receivers, so I think we were thinking
rookie wide receivers.
Right. I think we were thinking in the same direction. You also got the ability to see how your draft went along with it, and that's a skill.
And it was a flyer.
Yeah, I've always said fantasy drafts are a skill. You see how things are going.
Right.
I'm always a trendsetter when I see the draft. I want to start the trend. I don't want to be reacting to it.
Right. You don't want to be part of the tight end trend.
Right.
5 tight ends are off the board. Now you got to go with
right. Exactly. Right. And then if you're afraid if you don't get that 6th tight end, you almost end up with nothing. So you want to really start setting trends versus reacting to them. But I think your floor with Cortland Sutton is higher than Calvin Ridley's floor. Right. I think the ceiling for Calvin Ridley is much higher than Cortland Sutton.
Right. I believe your guy's talent is better. It's which I would say is I would be comparing. If we want to give comps to these players, in my point of view, I would say mine is Brandon Marshall's. His could be Amari Cooper. And Amari Cooper with Matt Ryan is pretty darn good.
Right. Exactly. And if I'm looking at it from a late round perspective, I'd much rather have the guy with the higher ceiling.
Right. The only problem with Ricky's player is just there's so many options in that system. With the Broncos, you're probably looking at Royce Freeman getting those carries. You got Iman Sanders, Demaryius Thomas, and then there's Cortland Sutton.
Right. No.
Before a tight end.
Right, and that's why I say your floor is higher than my floor. But I think we could agree my ceiling is higher, depending. And Calvin Ridley might be a guy. Look, if you're listening to this or anyone out there is looking at Calvin Ridley, you might have to hold on to him for a few weeks. Right. He might, because again, I didn't look at the depth chart, but he might be behind Mo Sanu. If he is, then I say be patient. We talked about this last year with Tariq Cohen. I was upset with his production early on. He said, hold on, give him a few weeks. He didn't produce the way we thought he would, but he produced in a way that showed if you did hold on to him, there was potential trade value, or you could use him in a bye week potentially.
Right. Yeah, definitely, especially if you're playing in, it depends what system you're playing in, PPR or whatever. But, these guys really come in handy week 4 and beyond because now you're dealing with the bye weeks.
Right,
and
exactly.
not only that, injuries come up suddenly. It is football. So to have these guys and to have these security blankets is key to winning a championship.
One thing I do love about Cortland Sutton, look, we know Devontae Booker.
I love the size.
I think Devontae. Well, forget about the actual player. I think if we look at the system, we know Atlanta's going to throw it. They run the ball they have two good running backs,
Right.
but they gave Matt Ryan a lot of money. They also gave Case Keenum a lot of money. Unproven in Royce Freeman, proven in Devontae Booker, which wasn't all that impressive.
No, Butterfingers.
But I think, look, the Broncos did really, really well when they had Peyton Manning, and even Brock Osweiler for a little bit. They want to throw the ball all over the park. They're not going to set records like Peyton, but look, can Case Keenum potentially throw 30, 35 touchdowns? I think the answer is yes. I really do. 35 touchdowns, just over 2 a game. I think he's got that potential. He's got a big arm, kid out of Houston. Look, I like Cortland Sutton. Again, I'm going bigger ceiling versus the floor. But I think we both have players that have potential to have very good rookie seasons.
Absolutely. On a serious note, real quick question. Have you seen the movie Crazy Rich Asians?
I have not.
I heard really good reviews about that.
I have.
And I want to laugh.
No, yeah, and look, for you moviegoers out there, you're talking, I'll speak on my behalf. Once football season comes, don't look for me Thursday night. Don't look for me Friday. Don't look for me Saturday. Don't look for me Sunday. If you want to find me on Tuesday or Wednesday at a movie theater, there's a good chance you might. Yeah. But there's pro football Thursday. There's college football Friday, all day Saturday college, all day Sunday, and the Monday night game. So you won't find me at a movie theater 5 out of the 7 days a week. But that is a movie that I do want to see.
Yo, it actually piques my interest a little bit. So moving on, we have the AFC South breakdown because we're finishing our team-to-team breakdown.
Right, we got
two
point.
of them today.
Right.
We're knocking 2 birds with 1 stone. So the AFC South breakdown. Let's start off with the Indianapolis Colts. Is Luck ready for a big comeback, Rick?
No. And the reason
Are we putting too much on him?
Right, and that's the thing. I mean,
new coach, new system.
Right. We saw Peyton Manning, and it takes guy. Let's think about this for a minute. He was out for all of last season and part of the season before. He really hasn't played meaningful football in 2 seasons. There was a one point where he was just sounded giddy to be throwing a football again. And again, it was a major injury. I'm not saying he broke his thumb and he was out 2 seasons. Look, it's still a very talented division.
It was a weakness of the conference, is very quickly becoming the strength.
Right. I think the AFC South is by far the best division to me. You might say the AFC West.
Yeah, I'm a little biased to the West, but the South is right there.
Right. A healthy Deshaun Watson. The Jaguars are going to deny people from scoring. If you're lucky, if you score 14 points on them. The Titans were playoff last year. I know they might regress, but if the Titans are the worst team in the division on paper, they're not that bad. They're really not. And we're not Mariota fans, but they did enough to get to the playoffs last year. I
do love a guy that doesn't get much credit for that Philly Super Bowl win was Frank Wright, the puppeteer, and calling all those plays. And I know Doug Peterson's involved, but think again, people, the head coach has to be involved on 3 sides of the ball: special teams, offense, and defense. And I believe Frank Wright's got a real good talent. For you older folks out there, you remember him, the backup for Jim Kelly in all those Super Bowls where they didn't do much either, but still they were in a Super Bowl, 4 of them. So I believe, the Colts, I believe, are the weakest of this division. But
weaker than the Titans?
Yeah, but mostly because the defense is
the defense is atrocious, but that's been Andrew Luck's theme. The whole put up as many points as you can.
You could also equate this question to is Luck not a bad fantasy asset? Because to be honest, what's our biggest thing? The game script is going to be throw. They're going to be coming back a lot. A guy like T.Y. Hilton. Jesus, I can't even name another receiver.
Jack Doyle's a decent tight end. I tell you, decent tight end.
You could. I
don't trust their running backs. Between Marlon Mack and Jordan Wilkins, I don't trust.
If I had to pick one and you had a gun to my head, I'd say Jordan Wilkins.
Yeah, but
Ole Miss.
I mean, for what?
For what? Yeah, really.
I don't. If that team runs the ball more than 10 times a game, congratulations.
I think that's the least game that I'm willing to watch on Sunday: the Colts and the Bengals.
Yeah, we haven't really gone into.
I love
Sunday
football, but that's a
games
tough
yet.
one.
Yeah, that's gonna be a little tough.
But you never know; those are probably the highest scoring.
But ones. I don't. To get back to the question, I don't think Andrew Luck is ready for a big comeback. I think it's ironic because we're placing, media, fans.
Oh my God, they already have him winning the MVP.
Right. I think if that team goes 8-8, that's not bad, and Andrew Luck shows that he's healthy. I think that can be a positive for them. But speaking of a team that I'm higher on than the Colts, and I think this team actually might be on the rise. Well, the Titans, they have a new coach, new running back,
former Patriot, Mike Variable,
right,
young guy as a coach,
right, yeah, no, and he's done some great work since he's moved to the coaching side and not a player anymore. Does all that combined help Mariota and this Titan team take another step from where they already were last year, which I thought was an improvement?
I believe a big guy in that system that has to ascend and take the bull by the horns is Corey Davis. Yeah. You got this guy with the 5th pick in 2017.
Yeah, no,
This guy's got to show up, man. Yeah. This guy's got to show up. I don't want to hear about Rashad Matthews. I mean, I like Delaney Walker, but I like him. I don't want to hear about
reliable.
Taywan Taylor. I don't want to hear about Tajay Sharp.
Yeah.
Corey Davis. He's the most talented. You took him 50. He has the most talent. When I look on film, you know who he reminds me of? He reminds me of Anquan Bolden if he actually played like him.
That's high praise because Anquan Bolden was one of the
and he was a beast from day one.
Right.
But can this kid have a comeback? Forget about last season. He didn't have a touchdown. He showed a little bit of flash in the Patriot what was that postseason? Oh, against the Patriots.
Yeah.
Right, and he scored a touchdown. He showed a little flash.
He's a Central Michigan product, isn't he?
So
Antonio Brown, Central Michigan.
Yes. Maybe he'll find his inner Antonio Brown.
Let's put it this way: if he's half the player that Antonio Brown is, he's a top 20 wide receiver.
If he was Emmanuel Sanders, I'd be having a party.
Right. No, and he's another guy that we've talked about all the time. Look, Marcus Mariota really hasn't had a true number one, and that's what they drafted. They drafted this guy.
When you draft a guy top 5, you're potentially within the year or so to be your number.
Right. And again, I'm going to be a Raven homer for a minute. Brashad Perriman was cut.
Oh God, the Jets worked him out.
Right, the Jet, and he's not actually on his way to Buffalo for another workout. No, but I'm saying, look, like if these college wide receivers, if you don't produce early and often,
you're done.
You're going to find yourself looking for another team. Even though you'll still get paid that original rookie contract, look, they especially for these teams that struggle throwing, we know Marcus Mariota is not a big arm, big talent type of guy. I think he could help you win, but I don't know if he's ever going to be a Super Bowl winning quarterback. I don't think they take that next step. I think they might have peaked last year. They made the playoffs. Deshaun Watson healthy and the same Jacksonville team we saw from last year, they're not making the playoffs.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Matt LaFleur, all right? His background, this is the new offensive coordinator for them. Vrabel's going to be heavily involved with the defense. So when you're talking about Mariota, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Matt LaFleur. All right, Matt LaFleur comes from last year, the offensive coordinator of the LA Rams. He had McVay around him. And guess where he was the year before that? The Atlanta Falcons with Kyle Shanahan as his assistant. So you could just only imagine what's going on in this guy's head.
But he doesn't. The promise he doesn't have
the players.
Yes.
And when it comes down to it, you have to have the players.
Right. If we look at the Rams, they didn't even have.
Well, you could. I mean, if you want to really talk about it, if you look at the Rams players with Jeff Fisher and then Sean McVay came in. He ascended them.
I agree.
So can LaFleur, I'm not saying they're going to be the next Rams, but if they could be half that.
Well, the difference is some of the players the Rams had were young. Mm-hmm. So Cooper Kupp, Fisher didn't have. Robert Woods wasn't great in Buffalo. I'll say Sean McVay takes credit for that. Goff really took a step, but we knew Todd Gurley was going to be very good. But I don't know. They have Deion Lewis. They have Derrick Henry. We'll see what happens with the Titans.
Moving on, we have the Houston Texans, the Deshaun Watsons. Is he fully healthy, and can he light up the NFL like he did last year, Rick?
I think he's fully healthy and he can light up the NFL.
Or is he another RG3?
Well, that's you took the word right out of my mouth. I'm just concerned that
who sees RG3 more than you do? He's the backup quarterback for Mr. Flacco.
Yeah, no, who actually looked pretty decent in the preseason, just as a pocket quarterback. Yeah. I think Deshaun Watson, I think he can do a lot of good things. Again, I just don't. They're not better than Jacksonville. Like, they're just not. I hate
Another
to say
level, bro.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, we talked about Jalen Ramsey's comments on this show. Jalen Ramsey hasn't been wrong with what he said, and that is the best cornerback duo in the league. Jalen Ramsey, AJ
I would say
Boye.
Jalen Ramsey is a poor version of Deion Sanders prime time.
He might be. I need to see it for another year or two.
I see the flavor, and I see the athleticism, and I see the talent. He's just, I say, the best corner in the league right now.
Look, it's tough to disagree. It's tough to disagree.
I used to be like Xavier Rhodes for me.
He might not even be the best cornerback on his team. AJ Boye is right on the other side.
Yeah, he's number 2.
Right. Yeah, I mean, realistically, I know we could talk Richard Sherman and, we could talk some of these other guys. But, I think Watson, if we were back to the question Dean Annis gave us,
right.
I think if he's healthy, he can light up the league. I just don't know if they're going to have the ultimate success because of Jacksonville in the same division. Mm-hmm. How are you on the same page, or do you expect them to win the division based off what you saw last year? I feel like this team,
there's no gray area. It's either black or white. So in saying that, what I'm trying to say is there's no middle ground, all right? It's either going to be really, really good or really, really bad, like last year. You have a great receiver in Nook Hopkins. You have a guy in Will Fuller who only knows how to play when Watson's out there. And you have a running back that's declining in Lamar Miller. So it depends how they monitor his touches. A fantasy guy to watch out in that offense, believe it or not, is Alfred Blue, who could sneaky get you some carries. Alfred Blue won me a fantasy Super Bowl 2 years ago.
Yeah, no, Alfred Blue's not a bad player. I wouldn't want to rely on Alfred Blue.
No, but
it's a nice little complimentary piece.
Absolutely, and you know what? There's always options for flex options moving forward. And again, when I keep reiterating, when you hit those buys, everyone is in a panic to pick up players, and it's always to look at the prism from the outside sometimes.
Moving forward to our last team, real quick, are the Jags going to repeat their success? Division winners, their success from last year.
I'm going to say a resounding yes, just because I know they don't have Joe Montana back there and Blake Bortles, but a lot of people, say, Bortles is not taking care of the ball. They're a run-heavy offense, so he's playing off of that. Well, you could say the same thing for Eli Manning all those years when he won those Super Bowls with that great Michael Strahan defense, and he had
Brandon Jacobs and Bradshaw.
Right, the Thunder and the Lightning. So you could say that about a lot of guys. Trent Dilfer, back in the 2000s with the Baltimore Ravens. Defense wins championships. I love offense. Ricky loves offense. But if I had to win one game,
I'd rather have the defense.
I'd rather have the defense because in the end, I have to stop you from scoring.
Right, exactly.
And that's what the Jags built their team on, defense and running the ball.
Yeah, you're not going to hear an argument from me. I'll keep it short. I'm full on board. I think this team takes another step. I think they're the second best team in the AFC behind the Patriots.
I agree with you. And we say that just because, look at it. When we compare Pittsburgh Steelers, great offense, but they can't stop you or I.
Right. In my power rankings, I have the Patriots, Steelers, Jaguars, not 1, 2, 3, but in the AFC. But I think once Bortles gets going, again, that was with Le'Veon Bell. I don't know what's going on with him. We assume he's going to be there at some point this season, but week 1's not looking very strong for him. We'll see what happens in my fantasy draft tonight because, look, I mean, I assume Le'Veon Bell will still go 2, assuming Todd Gurley goes 1. But if I'm number 2, luckily for me, I'm playing the guy with the number 2 pick. So if Le'Veon Bell isn't there week 1, I'll be more than happy to see that because it just happens to be the schedule, the way it works out. So I might catch a break. But the only thing I worry about with the Jaguars, their offensive playmakers on the outside. They lost Allen Robinson. Hearns isn't there, so I don't know what. They still have the kid D.D. Westbrook, but that's my only concern. But I expect them to get back to the same place.
I think they totally get through it. And a guy that ascends out of that offense, for me, Keelan Cole.
Yeah, I like him. Again, he's relatively unproven, so we're going to have to see. These guys are going to
opportunity. It's all about opportunity.
Right. They're going to sink or swim, those kids. Are they going to step up, or are they going to regress, and they're going to be short of playmakers? But speaking of a team that loves to throw it, just drafted a quarterback.
Are we moving on to the AFC West?
NFC West. We're going to NFC West.
My
is
boy.
Josh Rosen, before I ask the question, Sam Bradford was named the starter week 1. I think we all expected that. Is Josh Rosen going to be the man in the desert? And if so, should he be starting week 1 for those Arizona Cardinals?
My first point is he will be the man in the desert. Whether it's now or later, I don't think it really matters because, truthfully, Sam Bradford is one-and-done trick pony. He'll probably get hurt by week 2, so we don't have to worry about that. And 3 is the kid had a little injury in week 2 of the preseason, so they've been sitting him the past 2 games. So I believe you get your franchise rights, sit him on the side, and when you bring him in, you're going to be pleasantly surprised. Because I say him and Darnold are the future will be talked about from that draft of 2018.
Yeah.
Not Saquon Barkley, but Rosen and Darnold.
Right. We've talked about Saquon Barkley's expectations. He can't live up to them because if he's not Walter Payton, he's failed. Not his fault. It's not his fault, but he won't live up to them. I had Josh Rosen 3rd on my quarterbacks this year out of the rookie class. Darnold, I said Baker Mayfield too, and then Rosen. I don't think he's going to be the guy in Arizona. I think Sam Bradford will always be a step ahead of him.
Are you kidding me? Sammy Two Sleeves? Are you kidding me?
Look, Sam Bradford.
Sammy Biscuits? Are you kidding me?
Sam Bradford, when healthy, was very productive for the Vikings last season.
You know what Sam Bradford is most remembered for?
Did I interrupt you? Did I interrupt you?
Go on.
The best I saw Josh Rosen play was that week 1 game that might have been the best comeback I've seen in college football history. They played the Texas A&M Aggies. They were down 45-10. And they came 45-10 or 42-10. I forgot. Josh Rosen came back. He should have thrown 3 interceptions in that game. And he got lucky that Texas A&M decided to let the ball go through their hand 3 times. I just see him as one of those guys that is going to make too many mistakes for his own good. David Johnson coming off a major wrist injury. Hopefully he's back. But look, I think they're always going to – I look at Sam Bradford, who I think is a starting quarterback in this league. I don't think Josh Rosen is the guy for the Cardinals.
Wow.
I was never high on him to begin with. And look, I think
to rain on my parade.
I think the Niners are going to be good. I think the Rams are going to be good, and you can't count the Seahawks out. So they will be last again in that division. And look, if I'm the Cardinals, I wouldn't even play Rosen this season. But look, that's just me.
No. That the great thing about sports is everyone has their opinions. And here's mine. I think Chosen Rosen is the man.
When is he coming in for you? Is he playing this season?
Yes.
Are you going to wait? So you're going to wait for Bradford to struggle?
Yes.
So now let me ask you this.
Now, if he doesn't,
right? What if Sam Bradford gets to the bye week? I don't know what their bye is.
Right.
I don't know what their bye is, but say they're 500 around at the bye week.
Yes.
Do you make the move or do you let Sammy Bradford continue out?
No, I keep Sammy Two Sleeves in there.
Right, so you're just going to assume the Cardinals are just struggling mightily.
Right. I don't disagree with you that they'll be in last place. That's a tough division, especially with...
Haven't we been saying that a lot? There are a lot of tough divisions. I think there's a lot of parity this season.
Well, I think...
more than ever.
Absolutely, and especially in the NFC. Oh, my God.
It's by far the better conference. I don't even think it's close.
You could pick 7 teams out of a hat, and I wouldn't have any negativity to talk about it because any one of those teams could win. Right. You talk about Atlanta. You talk about Philly. You're talking about
Saints, Packers, Vikings, Rams.
Yeah,
Seahawks.
I mean, come on, it's loaded, and not even the Giants if they ascend with the Saquads.
Yeah, right. No, exactly. I don't know. It's going to be tough. I look at the Cardinals very similar to the Jets. They have a young quarterback with a veteran. The Cardinals went the other way and starting the veteran.
Their running back.
Right, you wish you have David. But look, as I've said earlier, I've said it since Le'Veon didn't sign. The Jets, in my opinion, will have Le'Veon Bell come next season. I think they're going to offer King's ransom to him. If he doesn't take it, it's because he doesn't want to play for the Jets, not because the money wasn't offered. But speaking of teams, a team that I think is going to struggle, the next team we're going to talk about, to me, should be the Super Bowl favorites, and that's the second year of the Wonder Boys, McVay and Goff. Are they Super Bowl favorites like I think they are, and how big of an impact do they have on the discount double check, the Vikings of the North, the Seahawks in the same division, Saints? Where do they lie?
Well,
based off last season,
I believe they are a favorite for the NFC. I think they're leading the pack. Also, too, I'm going to reiterate, defense wins championships, and they bolstered up, boy. I mean, they just signed Aaron Donald this week. You got Sanu, Ndamukong Suh, and you got Marcus Peters, Aqib Talib. Yeah. I mean, it looks like a Pro Bowl team of 2016 out there,
right?
On defense, and I think those boys could fly around the ball, and they're ecstatic. I mean, it's when you leave a losing team like Sue left, not the Lions. What was it? Miami.
The Dolphins.
I think he's going to get re-energized. And then you have a guy, Aaron Donald, right next to him. I mean, who's going to block that?
Yeah.
And on offense, they're very explosive on the mind of McVay. I mean, close to the Saints, I believe they are the favorite in the NFC, leading the pack.
So they're the best team on paper, at least.
Correct. I would say more balanced.
So if you had to pick your Super Bowl team from the NFC, you'd go with the Rams.
No. I believe they're the most balanced, but in the end, I believe a team like New Orleans.
Okay.
I believe in a team because of Aaron Rodgers. He is that special.
So you would take the Packers to make it to the NFC Championship and win that game over the Rams right now?
Yes, because in the end, you can never count him out. You can never count out Rodgers. I've seen it too many times. I mean, I've seen it so many times that the guy just flings up a ball. Hail Mary, I know it's the odds that...
I don't think it's it's ironic you bring that up.
He's so good at it.
Well, it comes to a point where it's like Rodgers is getting lucky. Well, how many times do you have to do something?
He's just that good.
We know it's a lucky play, obviously, but at some point he's doing something.
Right, but his odds are better than the rest.
If I had to pick one of the 32 quarterbacks to throw a 40-yard end zone pass...
With 1 second.
I'm taking the guy because not only does he have the most arm talent, and I know we're off track here from the NFC West, but... he seems to do it better than other people.
Right. But as far as on paper and before week 1 starts, right now it's the Rams because of the balance.
Not only will the LA Rams win the NFC, I think before the season starts, they are my Super Bowl team.
We'll get to Super Bowl predictions. I'll throw that in for us at the end.
Okay. To
recap, you think they're
right?
They're
I
the
won't.
favorite,
Right.
obviously.
So I won't talk too much about them. I'll move on. Real quick, I think the Rams are going to be better than they were last year. They bolstered the defense. Speaking of team that struggling, especially running, the Seattle Seahawks. We don't know what to make of Rashad Penny, the kid out of San Diego State, gets to stay on the West Coast. He's been battling a hand injury. We talked about him a bunch last year. We were up to 1:30 watching this kid because his games were on the CBS Sports Network. Last game possible on TV. Seemed like the kid was running for 10 yards every play.
I thought second best if coming out of the draft.
Behind Saquon.
Yeah, I believe. I agree. To me, the top 3 that were coming out, it was Saquon, Penny, and then Geis.
Right. Unfortunately, Darius Geis is out. And it looks like Royce Freeman might be playing into that conversation with the volume he might get. The only thing I worry about the Seahawks, their offensive line continues to be horrendous. And I look at Rashad Penny, and I didn't really factor this in. The Seahawks have always had a big bruiser. They had Alex Collins, who thank you for letting him come to Baltimore. He's been a revelation. And Marshawn Lynch, the run of the century against the Saints.
The run heard around the world.
Right, exactly. Maybe the most famous one-play run of all time, at least of this century.
But do you think they could establish the run again?
I don't. I don't believe in Trey Carson. I don't believe in Rashad.
Chris Carson, you mean?
Chris Carson, excuse me.
Who's that, a rapper? Trey Carson.
Yeah, excuse me. No, Chris Carson. That offensive line is just not very good. Russell Wilson is coming in with no Jimmy Graham, with a banged up Doug Baldwin. Look, Russell Wilson reminds me of Andrew Luck. At some point, you got to give these guys playmakers. You got to help them out a little bit. Aaron Rodgers has had he hasn't had a defense or
he needed Jimmy Graham.
Right, exactly. Rodgers?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's right with Cobb and right. But look, at the same time, that offensive line hasn't really gotten better, and their defense has slowed down. I think Earl Thomas really wants to be in Dallas, to be honest with you. Richard Sherman is gone. I'm very hit or miss on this Seahawk team. I don't know what to expect from them. They could be really good, or they could be pretty bad.
Name that tight end on the Seahawks. Who's their real quick off your top of your head? Could you name their tight
end? Luke Wilson. Is it Luke Wilson still?
No, Luke Wilson is in Detroit. Let's try Nick Vannett.
Oh, Nick Vannett? Look, I think I deserve credit for trying.
If Ricky doesn't know, then it's bad.
I think I deserve some credit for Luke Wilson, who's no longer there, who I actually kind of liked. But look, they just don't have the playmakers. Like Doug Baldwin.
How sick am I? Not even Google.
Doug Baldwin is good. I never thought of him as a number one, to be honest with you. So, what do you think? I know you're a big Rashad Penny guy, but
for me, it begins and ends with Russell Wilson.
It always does.
And they just paid Tyler Lockett, so maybe he emerges with some big play down the
Kansas State product.
But I think the division's going to come down to the Rams and our next team. Jimmy G and the San Francisco 49ers.
Dean Annis gave us this question, and I think it's a little overblown.
I think he was drinking when the Rays hit a walk-off the other night.
Right. He said the question posed to us was, is he the next Joe Montana? We're not going to answer that necessarily. You could throw it in. Are they the real deal, though? Is Jimmy G the real deal?
Yes.
We know they're not competing with the Rams. I'm sorry. I'm not even going to let you entertain that. The Rams will win that division.
No, but I could see them slipping as a wild card.
Right, I was going to say, I think a wild card, whether it's the first or second, is a legitimate improvement and a legitimate.
But I really do believe in Jimmy G.
I think you believe in him more than I do.
I think I believe in him more than he believes in himself. But I believe Jimmy G, if you look at him, I swear to you, he looks like Brady in the pocket. And I don't know if it was because he was around him so much. I don't know if it because, I read a big article on Jimmy G. His favorite player growing up was Brady. But when he steps back and throws, he reminds me of a 20 years younger Brady. And quick note, his birthday is November 2nd. My birthday is November 5th. Get that.
Well, what does that have to do with anything? You're not even on the same day.
But we're both
you're in the
Scorpio.
same month?
What are you talking about?
Oh, so you're in the same month. Should I bring up my father's November 25th?
Well, that wouldn't count as a Scorpio.
No, but I'm saying, how does that prove?
I just wanted to show my love affair.
Oh, great. So that's good. That's good. There's only 362 days in between your birthdays, and you're only older than him by what? 5 years?
No, he's older than me by 3 days.
Oh, he's older than you by 3 days. I thought. Okay,
okay. We're the same age.
Oh, maybe.
As you can see, football didn't work for me.
Right, exactly. You never played it down of football in your life.
I did, but I was going the other way. But back to the point. To put Jimmy G in that category, even for myself as the number one fan club of Jimmy G, I feel that is too early. Get him some weapons. I mean, you got a Marcus Goodwin there.
Good player. Very good player.
I remember him all those years burning Revis with the Bills.
He did.
And, got George Kittle bits.
Yeah.
Kibbles and bits. I think he's going to emerge. But Pierre Garçon, never, flashy guy.
He reminds me of Terrell Pryor.
Yeah, poor version of Jarvis Landry. Yeah,
Sure.
catches
no, but I'm saying,
over the middle, but he's not going to score.
Yeah, it's weird. You feel comfortable putting him in there because you're going to get 8 fantasy points almost in a PPR, but it's you're not going to get 0, but you're not going to get 20. It's just a safe, type of thing.
But is Jimmy G the next Montana? No. But you know what? He is the next Steve Young.
Well,
I say he gets 2 chips.
Let me rebuttal that. 1, he's not winning 2 Super Bowls anytime soon.
I'm saying throughout his career.
Good, and I'm saying he's not doing it ever.
Okay.
I hope we're still doing the show to the point where
real quick. I don't mean to cut you off.
Well, you did for the second time.
If you had to pick Russell Wilson or Jimmy G, who wins one next? If you had to pick between those two.
Russell Wilson.
I'm going Jimmy G.
The reason I say Russell Wilson is because I think Russell Wilson finds greener pasture in the future. Jimmy G is locked up with San Francisco, and I think Russell Wilson will find a team.
That he'll be
correct. I'm not saying it's done in Seattle. You asked me.
Peyton Manning.
You asked me.
No, of course.
Right.
Yeah.
You didn't ask me on their current teams.
No,
if they're on their current
did.
teams, I like San Francisco better because I think they're trending in the right way.
Well, I say mostly Jimmy G because I feel Kyle Shanahan is a future Bill Walsh in this league, along with McVay, with the mind and the offensive play calling. I think it's superb, and I think they will be a future.
Before I get to Jimmy G, it's kind of ironic. Look, Jared Goff's not Russell Wilson.
Right.
The way you talk of Josh Rosen, Goff will be worse than him.
Yes.
And you think Jimmy G is the second coming of Jesus. So if we look
whoa, I didn't say Jesus.
If we think no, on a serious note,
maybe Michael Jackson, but not Jesus.
If we look at that division, though, Jared Goff, in a few years, then not just your opinion, he might be the worst quarterback in that division.
No, you're absolutely right.
And that's not a bad thing. I think he will be.
Yeah.
Right, and that's not a bad thing. Is he a quarterback based on that system? Potentially.
He's boringly good. That's
right, exactly. He reminds me of a better Blake Bortles.
Yes.
With better weapons. But no, back to the Jimmy G point. I don't see him winning. He reminds me of a guy here a lot of like Matt Stafford. He's going to put up big numbers. Look, Jerick McKinnon's not there. I don't know how much they're going to run the ball. I think they're going to give it to him a lot, and I think he's going to make a lot of poor decisions based on his inexperience. Look, he was great. I think being with the Patriots for that time really helped him. But look, at the same time, he's not the next Montana. He's not this next Steve Young. All he's got to be is the next Jimmy G. If he plays to what you think he is and what I think he can be, I think he could be a good quarterback, just not a Super Bowl winning quarterback. But look,
stud.
There are a lot of good quarterbacks that don't win Super Bowls though. Just ask Dan Marino.
You're absolutely right. Okay, now moving on because we got it. Your picks for Thursday night kickoff.
Before we begin, before we do our picks, I just want to go through all the NFL games, and I'll give you the game that I'm most excited about watching. And how about this? As we're getting the schedule from D. Nannis, I can't pick the Ravens. You can't pick the Jets.
Perfect.
The game that I'm looking forward to the most, I hate to say it, but the Steelers at the Browns.
I don't hate to say it. I like it.
And I don't know if it's the Hard Knocks effect, but look, all the turmoil around Le'Veon Bell and what we're witnessing. Look, assuming he isn't back by week 1, don't be shocked if the Browns, only 3.5-point underdogs, if they come in there with a lot of fight. Excuse me. The teams that didn't do well the year before always think they have a shot. I'm not saying the Browns have a shot at winning the Super Bowl, but they know it's a new season and everyone's 0-0, and I'm intrigued by that matchup. Give me a game that's not the Jets, that's not the Ravens, that's not the Giants, a game that you're intrigued by, whether it's for defense, offense, playoff implications. Give me your game of the week.
Well, my game of the week is at 4:05. The Kansas City Chiefs take on the LA Chargers.
That could be a fun one.
My really biggest intrigue is to see Pat Mahomes in a real game, real situation. What do we do? And I think it will be the highest scoring game of the week, and a lot of back and forth. And that's what I love, and that's what fantasy owners love. And you get this. I want to see those go routes. I want to see those option routes to Tyreek Hill, just blazing people.
So since I picked the Browns and the Steelers, and you picked the Chiefs and
Chargers,
let's do a little role reversal. I'm giving, for you bettors out there, the Browns plus 3.5. Are you taking the Steelers giving up the points? Are you going to take and I'll take your game. Would you take the Browns with the points or the Steelers giving up 3.5? What would you do?
Don't laugh. I'm going to take the plus 3.
Look, and I'm not completely against you.
Look at my 3 factors. It's a home game for the Browns. Number 2, they're dying to win a game. All right. And 3, it's against the Pittsburgh Steelers, where Ben Roethlisberger is horrible on the road. No Le'Veon Bell. They're going to be going to Antonio Brown. Where's the coverage going to go to? Antonio Brown. Big game for Juju Smith-Schuster here. But I say, Cleveland, you get your first win of the year.
Is it because Lev Bell's? That's got to play into that decision, right? Absolutely. We're assuming that he won't be on the field week 1.
Absolutely. And I believe also, too, a lot of people are not even mentioning it. Pittsburgh has to learn a new offense.
They do.
New offensive coordinator.
They do.
Todd Haley is across the sideline. He's with Jarvis Landry and the brothers of the Dog Pound.
And Gordon, and they've got some offensive weapons as well. If I'm taking your game real quick, I say the Chargers at home. I say Phillip Rivers looks across the sideline and says, Pat Mahomes, this week 1 is mine, kid. Try again week 2. Okay. Look, I think Melvin Gordon's a lot of people aren't talking about Melvin Gordon this season. He had put up some good numbers last year, and that defense is a lot better than they were giving credit for. Bosa's
absolutely. Takeaways.
They get a lot of – they're very opportunistic.
Just ask Nathan Peterman.
Right, well, he's a nightmare. But now we gave our games. We got our first game Thursday night. Super Bowl defending champs at home versus the high-flying Calvin Ridley. No, I'm not going to say that. The high-flying Matty Ryan Falcons.
Battle of the Birds.
Who do you have? The line is -2.5 for the Eagles, which isn't saying much. Honestly, that means realistically we're putting them on a neutral field. It's pretty much pick them. Because usually in football, -3 at home.
I'm going Atlanta Falcons. Opener, everyone's hyped. Everyone's all Super Bowl hungover, whatchamacallit. We're worried. Wentz is not starting. Foles is starting. Foles has looked horrible in the preseason. I know you can't put preseason as like spring training. You can't put too much stock in it. But I believe you practice how you play how you practice. And I believe, we'll have an Ertz touchdown here or there. We'll have an Ajayi touchdown. But in the end, I think it's going to be too much of Matty Ice and Julio Jones.
And Calvin Ridley.
And Calvin Ridley.
And all the boys, Levine Toy, Lolo and Freeman. Look.
And I say Atlanta, second to the Rams, might have the talented roster in the NFL.
Yeah. I think you hit it right on the head. I'm a huge Falcon supporter in this game. Look, ATL. we saw it last year. Everyone thought the Patriots were invincible opening night, and Kareem Hunt looked like the second coming of Barry Sanders and Jim Brown. Honestly, that was where his season started. He fumbled on his first carry, and Kareem Hunt destroyed the Patriots from there. And I think the boys of the ATL roll into Philly.
So we're both on ATL.
Yeah, and I think I say the Falcons win pretty comfortably. And the reason I say this is when you win the Super Bowl, there's a target on your back.
And second year in not Shanahan, Sarkisian's system.
Right, and I think those boys are going to be motivated. Look, if we talk about teams that aren't afraid to go on the road, I think the Atlanta Falcons have shown in the past they've got a good core there. Vic Beasley is a beast. I think he will get after Foles. And the Eagles, to me, have a big Super Bowl hangover.
Right.
They just look like they're not ready mentally from all things. Nick Foles has looked awful. So you and I, Falcons, I think
we're on the Dirty Bird.
I think they take it pretty easily. I say they win close to double digits, if not double digits.
Oh, absolutely. I'm predicting a.
Let's make our predictions. You take it first, or you want me to go first?
30-17. 30-17
Atlanta. I'm gonna go 27-17 Atlanta. I don't know if everything seemed to click for the Eagles last year, and I don't think that's necessarily going to happen for them, at least week 1. And I think the fans are going to say, look, maybe we do need that Carson Wentz kid back. So
absolutely.
ATL all the way.
Absolutely. Okay. So in conclusion, as always, please subscribe to our JFP Sports YouTube channel. And please follow us on our IG at JFP Sports. Send us your DM, and we'll always answer them online. In the great words of the great Dr. Seuss, don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened. See you next week, folks. Enjoy some great football.